Started right away. Afternoon, everyone. We'll get started right away. In the interest of time, good afternoon again. I think it's evening for some of you, so good evening. Today we have the Honorable Eskinder Nega with us to answer questions from you all. So thank you for being here. Thank you, Eskinder, for being here as well. We will begin by asking Eskinder a question of our own regarding the so-called election that is currently underway, which has received growing international attention and criticism. After that, we will proceed to audience questions. Before we begin, though, I would like to set some strict ground rules. First and foremost, we ask everyone to remain civil and respectful when asking your questions. In the interest of time, please keep your questions to a maximum of 2 minutes. Unfortunately, we may not be able to get to everyone's question, obviously, because of the limited time. But Eskinder is always gracious to return for additional questions or discussions that you may like to hold. We will take one speaker at a time when we open the spaces up to audience. And we're doing that in order to avoid interruptions and to just, in general, ensure an orderly discussion. You are welcome to ask your questions in either Amharic or English. We chose to host the spaces primarily in English as a continuation of our previous discussions on the Amhara genocide and the humanitarian crisis. As such, we ask that today's questions remain focused on Amhara genocide, the humanitarian crisis, Ethiopia's potential future prospects, or the ongoing sham election process. Any additional questions regarding new development or unrelated issues to the listed topics, Eskinder will be addressing during his TikTok appearance or session on Monday. So you can ask additional questions there, or they will be addressed at that time. So again, thank you everyone for being here. Without further ado, I would like to welcome the Honorable Freedom Fighter, Eskinder Nega. Eskinder, how are you? Are you on the line? Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah, I can hear you, Maleda. How are you, Maleda?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for asking.
Well, it's almost midnight in Ethiopia, so I'm going to say good evening to everyone.
Good evening. Okay. So in the interest of time, I will just go ahead and ask you the first question, and then we will open up to the audience, Eskinder. The regime is, as you know, holding what is a sham election in the midst of war, genocide, and general instability across the country. And this so-called election is being done in the absence of major independent foreign observers, aside from the AU and IGAD. The election has faced criticism from international outlets, including The Economist, The African Report, Al Jazeera. It is also currently trending on Twitter, with Twitter's AI assessment stating that Prosperity Party is expected to dominate while insecurity continues in many parts of the country, including the Amhara region, where voting has been canceled in some areas. These are the words of the AI verbatim. In this context, Eskinder, what do you make of this so-called election, and what should the world understand about the so-called election process in Ethiopia? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Maleda. I think this is a timely question. I think this is even more than Amhara genocide at the present moment, at least after Monday. I think this is the topic that the international community, both the international community and the Ethiopian public, will concentrate on. Now, we know about the past elections that have been held ever since the TPLF took power in 1991. The 6 so-called general elections that had occurred. Now, in those elections, we all know that the ruling party, the EPRDF, had won practically all the seats that it had contested. Now, and this is part of the story that the international community should be very aware of, because this time there's a twist. That narrative that we're used to, that's to say that we have this election, we have at least 99, no less than 97% of the seats that has been contested by the ruling party being won by the ruling party. But this time, of course, we have a prime minister that very much conscious of his international reputation, his international image. So and he knows, and the ruling party knows that the international community will not go into the details because the story would be the result of the election, not the process. So what they have done this time is to I don't know what the appropriate word would be, but I think it would be close to the reality to say that they have pre-engineered the results because what they have done now is to make sure that the ruling party does not win the 97, 98, 99% of the seats in this election. So what they have done is to vacate or not to contest. I think it's about 48 seats in the federal parliament. And I'm sure that most of us have heard the Prime Minister, saying, I think it was in January of 2026, that the number of seats that will be held by the opposition in the next parliament will increase by, I think he said about threefolds or sixfolds, something to that effect. So what we're going to see, what the story will be on Monday or Tuesday or whenever the election result is proclaimed by the election board, is that for the first time in Ethiopia's history, a large number of seats has been won by the opposition. Because, like I said, at least 48 parliamentary seats in the federal parliament is not being contested by the ruling party. So this is, they did this because they have put into consideration the international public opinion. They want to, present this as they couldn't convince the international community that this has been a fair election, but they could somehow portray the election as something that was that was better than previous elections. That some progress is being made in the democratization process that has been promised by the Prime Minister when he came to power. So this is a crucial part of the story that we all have to concentrate on, and we shouldn't be tricked by this cheap shots by the ruling party. It's a sham election, and the result has been presets, to give this impression that somehow things are improving in the country. But to the contrary, nothing is improving. It's much worse than when when the regime came to power. That should be clear. And in Addis Ababa, in the regional election that's being held in Addis Ababa for the city council, the ruling party is now contesting for 15% of the seats, and this is to, like I said, this is to paint a picture, to create the impression that things are improving in the country. So I think this is something that we should be aware of, and this is something that we should expose to the international community, because, like I said, the international community is not involved in the process. It's more fixated on the end result, on the result of the election. So this is something that we Ethiopians should expose the process and the result. For the sham that it is. For the we should be very diligent in our campaigns over the coming week, over the coming 3 to 4 days until the results are announced. I don't know when that's going to be, but whenever it is, we should come out and say that this has been preset, this has been predetermined, and this is something that the government has set up, and we should be able to tell the international community that story. Maleda.
Thank you so much, Iskender. You have uh, summarized it thoroughly well. It is clearly a sham election. Actually, to our surprise, the international community is already covering it. Additional information is incredibly helpful, obviously, but the general assessment has been that. It's a sham election where the results are already predetermined and the ruling party will obviously dominate. But there's in the AI assessment, I'm not sure if you addressed it, it did say that in the Almara region specifically, small areas or some areas, in some areas, the election is canceled. Is this an accurate assessment, Skander? What percentage of the Almara region is the regime currently controlling?
That's the incredible part. One of the incredible parts of the story, is what they're saying about the Amara region. In the last election, in the election that was held, I think it was in 2015. There was no election, or there were no elections in 19 constituencies in the Amara region. Now this is before the region was engulfed by war, as it is now. So 5 years ago, when things were relatively stable, when the regional government was still intact, they were still unable to hold elections in 19 constituencies in the Amhara region. Now, after the regional government has collapsed, and this region has been, like I said, engulfed by a day-to-day war. And in the context where the state government has collapsed and we have a military administration in the region, by the way. It's not even a civilian run region. And there's a military occupation, there's a military administration. Now what they're telling is only 8 elections will be held throughout the region, except in 8 constituencies. And that's less than half the number that we were told 5 years ago. So this is laughable, because at least 80% of the region is being controlled by farmers. And this is a reality. The government controls less than 20% of the region. But how they're doing this? I should say a word or two about that. The chokehold that the government has over the region comes by way of fertilizers. The farmers, who constitute about 85% of the population of the region, are dependent on fertilizers. And it's the government who provides fertilizers. And to get access to those fertilizers, farmers have to go to the towns, to the towns and cities that are controlled by the government. When they go to purchase those fertilizers, and the government is the sole provider of fertilizers, what the government does is that it will not sell those, it will not sell fertilizers to them unless they register to vote. So what they do is, when they come to purchase fertilizers, they insist that they should first come up with their ID, with their voting cards, that they should first register, and then they'll be provided with fertilizers. And they do this, because it's a necessity, because absent the fertilizers, they will not be able to grow their crop. So they have registered, I think, a large number of people, through this mechanism. And I don't know what they're going to do, because they will not be able to hold, the election ballots in the countryside. They couldn't come to the Kabbalists. This is the local administrative units deep in the countryside. They will not be able to come there and hold the election. So I think what they're trying to do is to stuff. One that they have registered the farmers through this means. So I think what they're trying to do is to stuff the ballot boxes with fraudulent, with fraudulent papers, and insist that people have voted. So this is what they're doing. This is how, this is, they have made a risk assessment, that the election board has made a risk assessment, and they have come up with this ridiculous figure that says that, that they will be able to hold elections in 97 or 97% of the region. And they came up with this figure because they were, like I said, they have been able to coerce people to register by withholding fertilizer. That's important that they were not able to do that. So the only means that they could, that they could do is to to come up with that. I don't know what they have intended, but they will have to lie. They will have to blatantly lie. And it says that the people have voted, but the people are not going to go out on Monday and vote. But they have been registered. So many people have been registered, like I said, because of fertilizers. So this is it's and I should add something, because this risk assessment that has been done by the election board. A second risk assessment has been done by the Ethiopian Federal Police, and the results. Those two government agencies have come up with very different results, with very different assessments, and that's a very striking story, because, like I said, the election board is saying that elections could be held in more than 90% of the region. But the Ethiopian Federal, but the risk assessment done by the Ethiopian Federal Police says that an election could be held in only 50% of the Amhara region, and that's an exaggeration. But the Federal Police is saying it's possible to hold an election in only 50% of the region. So you see that even within the government, within the regime, there's differences of opinion, and it's not coordinated. The propaganda is not coordinated. But anyway, rest assured that there will be no election on Monday. There will be no election, which majority of the people, at least 85% of the population, will not be participating in Monday's election. But they will have to come up with a way to say that people have voted. And we'll see, we'll see what they will say then. But it will be, it will be a lie, Maleda. It will be a blatant lie.
Thank you, Eskinder. That's a great synopsis. An interesting point. I think I should repeat that this regime weaponizes quite literally everything, including a sham election. It's weaponizing the idea of voting for prosperity and withholding or extorting farmers for fertilizers. Imagine your livelihood depending on whether you vote or you register to vote for Prosperity Party. That's not merely a sham election, that is criminal and anti-democratic. So it's laughable to call this regime